Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Big Break Show. I am Rafa with my co-host, Mr. Jesse Vasquez. What is up, brother?
What is up, you guys? We just went through this like 4 times already.
Bro, episode 21.
21. There we go. We got it. You know what? I'm super excited. You know why I'm excited, Rafa?
Tell me.
Because of Alex Quezada, who's on our show today. So Alex, you guys, is doing some big things. If you don't know his name, you need to, and you actually will find out what he's doing. But this guy is wholesaling. He's in the short-term rentals. He's in commercial. He is literally doing it all, and he's building a small little empire. And I'm super pumped for you guys to take a listen to what he's got going on. I think you're going to be inspired. We dive into his beginning, where he's at now, and all the trials and tribulations from the, where he started to where he's at now. So yeah, I'm pumped to have you guys check this out. It's a good one.
Yeah, this is one of those episodes where I wish it would have gone longer than an hour, but we got to keep them short, which sucks because it ends really good conversations. But this guy's really built multiple streams of income from multiple strategies within real estate, right? Vacation rentals, short-term rental, midterm rentals, storages, multifamily, right? Call centers, wholesaling. He's doing it all. So you guys are really going to enjoy this one. Find him on Instagram. We put all the stuff and all his info on the show notes, and you'll hear it at the end anyway. But man, he's got a really good Instagram too, Jesse. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah,
really funny videos.
He's got some funny stuff on there, and and it's informative.
Yeah, super informative, man. So yeah, without further ado, guys, enjoy the show. If you like it, please at the end hit us with the like or dislike, whatever you prefer. Whatever you're feeling today. But we love you all for being here. Thank you. Alex, dude, so thank you so much for being here, man. I'm excited to have you because I know we just met and we had awesome conversations out at this lodge where we were out, right? What was it, for like 4 days? And super excited to bring you on because I want to talk about everything you have going on. It's short-term rentals, mobile homes, storages, right? Single family, multifamily, wholesaling. You got everything going on in the real estate realm, dude. So I'm excited to get into it. So thanks for being here, man.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, so one of the things, before everything else, Alex, I want you to tell all the listeners and the viewers who you are, where you came from, how you started, and what really got you into real estate.
Gotcha. So 10 years ago, I got started in real estate by a radio ad for Ronald Grand, how to buy houses with no money down. Kind of had a full-time job at the same time. Finally quit my job, started doing real estate the whole time, worked for somebody else for like 3 years, ran his wholesale business, and then ventured off and started my own company. It was just me and my brother. We were doing okay. Like, we thought we were doing good for like 3 years, making good money, but then saw going to, always going to other events and masterminds and coachings, we saw people who were really crushing it. So we started, leaning on their advice of spending more money on marketing, doubling down and, growing our business. From doing that, we exponentially grew our business. We went from doing 36 deals to 82 deals the next year. And then we got some training, some coaching. We partnered up with one of my buddies and we did like 192 deals the next year. So, wow. And that was all through wholesaling. In that meantime, I was picking up properties, houses, mobile home parks, as well, with some other partners. And, from building the team to replace myself in the wholesale business has allowed me to kind of venture off and do certain other things like own mobile home parks, own self-storage, building those businesses, owning Airbnbs. So, now we sit at, over 1,200 doors amongst all those asset classes and units.
Alex, that was a lot to unpack, man, in like 2 minutes. So let's start off with this. What were you doing before you got that? You saw those ads? Like, what was happening at that point in your life?
I was at UCF getting a finance degree, about to graduate, while also having a full-time job doing like face-to-face sales. It was for like a travel club. We got to like utilize timeshares. And so that gave me a lot of sales skills. And yeah, that was it.
So, and you know what's crazy, Rafa, now that we're talking to you about this, Alex, a lot of times we have guys on here that have a similar stature. It's like what you have going on. And then there's always some kind of sales background. So did that help you out tremendously with the wholesaling calls? Was that like you felt comfortable coming in to do that? Is that what you did first?
Yeah, 100%. I was all acquisitions. Me and my brother were just locking up deals, and so having those sales skills was pivotal. When I came into that sales office, like my now partner didn't want to hire me in the call center. He didn't want to hire me, and his other buddy who brought me in like trained me up, and Scott trained me up, and I got to be around people who were selling all day every day. They came from timeshare, like real timeshare, and just listening to them talk, listening to how they pitch deals, teaching me sales for 2-3 years. After the first like 6 months, a year, I was a top salesperson for the next 2 years. Teaching and reading like sales books. They pass me books, and just really educating myself on sales. And I think in this business, and really any business, it's all sales. So if you can master sales, you can be successful in anything you do.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Sales and marketing together, you get the leads to convert to eventually turn into, those leads turn into actual clients. So huge, man. So, okay, Rafa, I know you have something to say right now. I see it in you. Go ahead.
No. So it's crazy because you always do talk about this. Jesse's always about like, you got to be in sales, you got to be in sales. And I'm like, I hate sales, but I know how important they are, right? Because essentially everything is a sale, right? I have to sell my idea to an owner if I want to arbitrage their property or go in and work a deal with them. Everything is sales, so it's huge. No. It's actually, I was gonna make a joke because you're like, oh, I have a bunch of Airbnbs. We have one rule here, Alex. They're called short-term rentals, not Airbnbs. So no. But listen, I want you to talk about how. Okay, so you decided to get into this whole field. What was your first deal like? Like, what made you go? Because a lot of people are scared to make that first deal, like to either purchase that first investment property or like even make that first phone call for wholesaling. Like, what was your first deal? And like, how did you go? Because the reason I'm asking this is because you said a lot of keywords about mentoring, coaching, masterminds, right? And that's huge. That's huge in this world. I mean, it's how we met. It's how I've taken my business from to here, right?
Yeah.
And so talk about that, your very first deal, how it looked and what made you go, man, I want to give this a shot, right? I want to get over it. Were you scared? Like, talk about all of that.
Yeah. So again, starting like 10 years ago, I learned. So I actually did my first deal like 10 years ago, but I was learning like 12 years ago because I was learning while I was in school and in doing a full-time job, and I never put anything into action for like 2 years. I really wanted to like learn everything, know everything. I dabbled a little bit into like some marketing and went to some appointments, but for learning to buy houses with no money down, it was like taking over people's mortgages. And me at like 22, 23 years old, sitting in somebody's house, tell them like an older person to say, hey, let me take over your mortgage. And I don't have a mortgage. I barely have credit and stuff like that. It was, I didn't have it in my, yeah, I didn't have it like in my mindset that it could be done. So I kind of like wanted to learn more. And then I actually, back then it was all like foreclosures. There's a lot of foreclosures and REOs. And there's a guy, Preston Ely, who put out a course called the REO Rockstar. And that one like really like, connected with me. And I dived into that one. I don't think it was actually Preston Ely, it was his buddy. I forget his name though. But then I dived into that course, and so we were making offers on MLS properties, all through REOs, offering agents double commission to take our offer and whatnot. And there was a lot of REOs on the market, so it's all about making connections with those agents. So my first deal was from an REO. It's on Wolf Street in Orlando, Florida. I forget the exact address, but we got that property. I locked it up on, off the MLS, and I sold it with a bandit sign. So we put signs that say like 3-2, investor special, and I put like 20, 30 around the area, sold it, made $8,000 on that first deal. And my next deals were REOs also. The next 2 I did before I started working with this other company, where I asked him to, mentor me. He's like, I don't really want to mentor somebody like I'll hire you as an employee. And he hired me, and I ran his kind of wholesale division for like 3 years.
Okay. So I always ask this because when we talk to people, right, there's always like the beginning part of investing. There's the like the newbie, right, where they're learning, and then they become the little startup investor, and then you get to like the midterm, and then you become to like next level. Like to me, Alex, you in my eyes, you're like at the next level investing already, right? I mean, how many Airbnb short-term rentals did you say you had?
We have 12 doors,
Right,
like
12
some of them are like
doors.
quads
Okay.
and duplexes.
And that's just on short-term rentals, right? How many storage units do you have?
We count it more on like square footage. So we have like
Right.
110,000 square feet, but it's probably like 500, 600 doors.
Jeez. Okay. Aside from that, how many multifamilies do you have?
So multifamilies, we have 2. Both are over 100 units. One's like 100, one's like 116.
Jesus. Okay. So the point I'm
smokes.
getting at here is not to announce what you have and what you have going on. The point I'm making here is that you went from learning to trying to doing your first deal. Talk about how you said, "Hey, screw this little small time stuff. I want to take this and blow it up," because that requires not only a big mindset shift, but it requires a lot of systems and processes and the right people in place to get you to get there, right? Or did you do this all by yourself? Let's talk about that. How did you go from the noob to the one deal to the I'm fucking top notch now and I'm killing it and I want to stay here and do better?
Yeah, I was helping that company do like 50 to 80 deals a year with the company. And wholesaling. And I ran most of that. So when I left, I knew I can do it. And me and my brother for like 3 years I have it right here in front of me, 30, 37, 36 deals. Just me and him. And so just me and him, I was like, it was good money because we were keeping 100% of it. And, after those 3 years, I went to an event. It was a Kent Clothier event. It was I think it was Find and Flip Summit. And when I went to that event in February of 2018, I started I saw other guys talk on stage who were younger than me at that point. And I was like 20, I was like maybe 30 actually. Terrible. I was like 30. So I was at 30. There's like 25-year-old kids and they were doing 20, 30 deals a month. And I was like, shit, I could do that. And I was talking to them and there's a bunch of like people crushing it. So I was in the right room. I put myself in the right room of people who are doing big numbers. And so I talked to a lot of those guys. I was like, hey, how are you doing this many deals? Because the circle I was with, we have like what's called like an alliance. All these people in this group in Central Florida that were doing wholesale, all were saying, hey, it's so hard to get deals. There's no deals out there. There's not enough deals. We can't find any deals. And that like penetrated my mind. And that's why we were doing three, 4 deals a month. And that's it. When I got around this other room where people were like, oh, like 20, 30 deals a month. And I asked them how they're doing. They're like, well, what are you spending on marketing? And I'm like, $3 to $5 grand a month. They're like, huh, try spending 30. I was like, okay. And my brother's like good with credit and stuff. So like he helped us like grow our credit and we already got an Amex like the next 2 weeks, put 30K on a credit card. And then we did like 110 the next month. And then we continued to spend money. We didn't spend 30 again. We probably should have, but we were spending 18, 20, 25 grand on marketing. And we were coming away with 70, 80K months, consistently.
Rafa, before you ask your question, I saw you shake your watch.
I'm like, dude, I'm like, Alex, I want to talk forever, but go ahead, Jesse.
All right, let me get some words in here, man. I'm trying to learn from you, Alex. So, okay, so I'm gonna stick with what you're talking about right now, but I'm gonna ask you another question after Rafa does. When you say marketing, what does that actually mean on your end? Like, what is marketing? You're spending 30K. Because I'm like sitting here like 30 grand. Was he doing running infomercials? Like, tell me what marketing actually is.
Yeah. So when we were just me and my brother, we got a lot of deals off the MLS. We were making offers like on every single thing that came on the MLS, but then we were also doing some direct mail, mostly to like motivated lists, like foreclosures, evictions, code violations, things like that.
So you're looking that stuff up, right? Like, how do you look that up?
So we would buy a list. So we call like a list broker. There's tons of them. You can use Find Motivated Sellers.com or REWW. There's PropStream now. There's a bunch of other data providers that you can buy data from. And then so we would buy data and we would just mail the data. So we find a direct mail broker and like a mail house, and they would send out the mail for us, letters or postcards and whatnot. And you'd pretty much hit the same list a couple times a year. When we talk to these guys, they're like, well, what are you sending out mail wise? And at that point in time, we were, maybe sending like 1,000 a month or whatever. So we kind of like kicked it up to like 10,000 a month. So 10,000 postcards a month. Then we added PPC, which is pay-per-click advertising, where if someone searches on Google, sell my house now, we pop up. So we got a program to do that, someone who managed our account, and we were spending like $7 grand a month on that. So we upped our spend on direct mail. We increased, we started PPC. So we just overall upped our spend on marketing to get more, hot leads, people, in more inbound leads.
Got you. Okay.
Isn't it crazy how that works though? Right? Like bringing it back to what you were saying earlier, you're talking about how you're like, oh, I'm around these people who are always telling me we can't find any deals. And essentially like they're telling you because they're probably never even looked, right? Maybe they looked for one a month and they're like, we can't find anything. But then you put yourself in the room with people who are doing this volume of amount of like deal flow, right? Even for me, I'm like, oh, I thought I was big at 44 units. And then I come and I meet you guys and I'm like, I'm like the little goldfish in this gigantic pond in this place. And now I'm like, screw this. I want to get to 100 doors like this, right? Like, and you don't fathom the idea of what you can get to until you're around the people that have done it and can tell you that, hey, dude, why are you doing 5 deals a month when you're good at it? You should be doing 40 deals a month. What the hell are you doing? And then you're like, well, I'm doing this. And they're like, well, that's your problem.
Thinking too small.
Opposed to everybody else next to you that are like, oh, you're doing too much. Get comfortable, relax, chill back. You already did 5 deals. Let's go kick it. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. No, it's crazy. I mean, it's kind of like one of those things where like put yourself around the right people, surround yourself around the people that want you to do better, be better, going back to the whole mastermind thing and stuff like that. But so when you were doing these direct mailers, were they handwritten mailers that they were doing for you, or was it just like those little generic postcards that you just throw into the house?
So we would do both. Like some of them, like the bigger list, we do like a postcard, a smaller niche list. We would do a more motivated list. We'd do like a yellow letter, and we did a lot of trial and error. Back then, we did big company like name, and then we did like our personal name, and send a picture of me and my fiance or wife, and go from there.
So basically, like we'll buy your house for cash or something like that. That's what it was.
Yeah,
saying.
we buy your house for cash and pay no commissions. Smooth, easy transaction. We'll, as is on your timeline, pretty much the basic stuff.
So basically, going back to the sales funnel, your leads, these are all your leads that you're getting together. Those are on your left side, and your conversions on your right side. So the more leads that you have, the people that you can talk to, knock on their door, have a conversation with, could eventually translate into a conversion. So like everybody listening right now, that's where you need to make sure that the marketing aspect, that you continually have leads coming in, because eventually those leads will turn into conversions. And I think this is so important, especially for wholesalers and people, what you do. Like you've been able to learn how to master those things. And once you learn how to do that, that takes you into, that starting off person from the very beginning, learning how to do this to, okay, now I got leads, plus I have the financial capital to pay for marketing. Because when I think about 30 grand in marketing, I'm like, holy crap, what does that entail? But you're just talking about super simple, 19th generation stuff, snail mail. Like people are still reading mail, right? Like now it's email. But the clients that you're going after, they still pick up the phone book. They're still looking at mail. They're still looking at those things, because typically, not all the time, and you probably have some examples of this, but mostly it's maybe older people or people going through divorces, or, like what does the clients typically look like that you're going after?
So that was what I was doing mostly back then. Now we kind of like pivoted to mostly cold calling. So we have a call center that we're strategically partnered with in South America, and we handle all the marketing for ourselves, and we have like 90 clients that we do it for also. So we do it cold calling and SMS is kind of like the get the best results. So they do so well for us, and obviously being that we own the company, we leverage that to the max, and we kind of cut off our direct mail. So yeah, last year we were doing direct mail on a very segmented list. Now we don't do it at all. We just smash on the cold call.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's where I want to transition to. I already knew you were doing that from talking to you, but explain to me how that helps you. Well, first of all, number one, are you doing only a specific market?
No, so we do like pretty much the whole Southeast. So we do cold calling, and PPC is the biggest thing. We do nationwide PPC advertising. With the broad niche, it allows us to have a lower cost per lead. With the cold calling, we do it on the Southeast, and then select hot markets.
Okay, got it. And when you have everybody like your team doing all the cold calls, are you guys looking for specific asset only now? Like, is it like multifamily, or are you still only doing, like, what's the asset you guys are looking for specifically?
So it's mostly single family. So I actually just had a call with my partner in Colombia, this morning about turning it on for self-storage,
Yeah.
so we can do it for ourselves. Because what we were doing before is like I had some interns here, like cold calling for us here, but it wasn't going through as many as I would want for like somebody who's like all they're doing is cold calling. So being on that side, I just had like a mindset of like, hey, like they can't talk to these owners as good as I can, or I can train these interns, but I can train these cold callers to make it happen and get the leads and what we need from the sellers to provide to my acquisition team here. So now we're going to start cold calling ourselves for self-storage, and then once that gets up and running, we're also going to do it for small multifamily, like 20 to 80 units, so that way we can take some down ourselves and then wholesale some, to you and maybe some other buyers there.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Sorry, Rafa, I got to ask Alex this question now.
Mhm.
So are you teaching people how to do this? Are you and this may be something that we can tap into. I just thought about it right now. But are you so I'm trying to figure out how you're making money right now. Obviously are you wholesaling deals?
Bro,
Or
he's
you're
making
buying
money he's like, look at the poster behind him. He's like printing this stuff, dude.
we're going to talk about your coin, man, but let's talk about like how let's talk about how, what are you doing with deals right now? If a deal comes across your lap today, like what are you doing? What's your thought process on that? So talk about like a recent deal you have, like you're working on.
So right now, my brother pretty much runs my wholesale team. He's my sales manager. He runs all the acquisitions, the dispositions, and then like also oversees like my transaction coordinator. So he essentially runs everything. I was in North Carolina last week, and I didn't have to do anything. Like he takes care of everything. He's running it, and he's a beast. So essentially, he knows what we're buying and keeping. So mostly for us, we want to wholesale everything. Right now, really, we just want to wholesale everything. The things that we do end up buying are deals that we can negotiate seller finance or subject to deals. So if we can take over their mortgage, or the seller will lend us on the purchase price, we keep those, mostly because if a seller's telling me they're going to lend it to me and they're kind of entrusting us and my team to say, hey, I will seller finance, or I will allow you to take over my mortgage, it's hard for me to justify in my mind that like I'm going to wholesale it to somebody else that I don't even know. And then if they screw up or they mess up and they don't pay, then it's going to look bad on me, or the seller's going to ultimately come back to me anyway. So most of those deals, like literally 99% of those deals, we're taking over ourselves in-house, and we're buying them to keep as long-term rentals. A couple of my Airbnbs are like, I bought one of my Airbnbs in Cape Coral with a subject to. I bought from another wholesaler an Airbnb in Palm Coast from somebody else that was a subject to deal.
Yeah.
We bought a seller finance deal, a duplex in Pompano Beach. That was a seller finance deal. So some of my Airbnbs my short-term rentals have come from seller finance deals or subject to deals that we found.
Let's talk about that real quick, because that concept to me, when I first heard people talking about that a couple of years ago, and it's become like the new shiny object. A lot of people can get into it. It's a way to buy a home without putting too much money down. I was blown away because I didn't realize that you can actually, somebody that's in a situation where they need to leverage their house or get out of that bill or whatever it is, or avoid taxes. Like I never thought about that, dude. Like and I think that now it's kind of come to light with like Pace Morby and all these people that are really pushing, being able to do that. So tell us what those leads look like, and how, if I'm starting right now, like, because I'm actually interested in this, like, how do you do that? Like, how do you go about, like, what's the first step that you would look, you kind of talked about earlier with the wholesale deals, you're looking on PropStream, but like, how would I go and how would I help somebody in this situation, like, get out of that? And what do those deals look like? How much money are you putting down?
So I don't specifically like be like, I'm looking for seller finance deals, or I'm looking for subject to deals. You can kind of go after that, but what we do, we just cold call everybody that's like essentially an absentee owner, because we have the capability to increase our marketing so much. We literally say anybody who's absentee owner, who's owned their house for 3 years or more, because the market has just skyrocketed. If you own your house for 3 years or more and you don't live at that address, I want to talk to you. So we scour everybody, and so it just comes down to our team is trained to go cash first, try to get the cash offer, get the lowest possible price, and go from there. And those clients are typically, they're in some kind of situation where they have a need to sell quickly, whether they're going through divorce, they're moving, they're in foreclosure or their house is in disrepair. Now, if that's not the case, or they're like, they're not in a rush, or their house isn't a wreck and they want a higher price, well, it doesn't really make sense always for a cash offer for them because we need it at a deep discount. So essentially we try to get them to the lowest cash number they're willing to take, and then they might be at 200, we have to be at 130, and so we're very far apart. The only way that works is saying, hey, Mr. Seller, like, I'll pay you your 200 if you're able to give me my terms. And at that point in the conversation, if they own it free and clear, or if if they own it with a mortgage. And if they own it with a mortgage, we work out a subject to deal where we have to know all the terms of the mortgage, so that way we can make an intelligent offer that makes us a cash on cash return for the money we're going to outlay for them to walk away, for maybe bringing up the arrears for repairs that are needed, closing costs, holding costs. So we base it on the cash on cash return essentially. But on the my favorite is seller financing, where they own it free and clear. So you can literally just go after people who own free and clear properties, pull a list of that, and just say, hey, I'll pretty much pay your price. You just give me my terms.
Seller financing is such an important skill. And it's such an awesome skill to have. Like, I know a lot of people who buy property for $0 down, right? Like, I was trying to buy a house right now off one of the owners that I work with, and he was willing to seller finance it. The problem is that he owes like $400 on his mortgage. I'm like, you can't seller finance that. It sucks. But knowing how to ask for that is massive. I mean, you just said, you picked up like 4 Airbnbs on that?
Yep. One was a big property. It's in Pompano Beach. It was worth like we negotiated $900K. He seller financed us $800K.
Wow.
And for like the first 18 months or something like that, it's like 2% interest only.
Wow.
And you never know what somebody's willing to do. This guy was actually a previous hard money lender. So he knows he can get 12%, 8%, 10% plus points on his money. And he lent this to us at 2%. Like, you wouldn't think that would be something he would do, but you never know. So you always got to ask. So if you ask the right questions, you can get some good answers.
That's awesome, dude. And aside from that, have you ever picked up any multifamily as seller finance like that? Like a large, because 900 grand's a large deal for a house already, but talking about like these big properties that you're acquiring.
Yeah. So my partner, the apartment complex in Chattanooga, Tennessee, he actually got that one negotiated with seller financing. It was like $7 million. It was like a church, or some kind of owner the owner was like a church. And so he was able to negotiate seller financing on that one. My first self-storage deal was like 88% loan to value, seller finance, also at 2% interest only. And so we were able not to come out of pocket a lot for the down payment, which we actually raised private money. So we bought our first self-storage deal with none of our own money out of our pockets. And so, it's out there, especially for someone on a commercial deal where they own a lot. They might owe a lot of taxes if they sold it. They get on the recapture. And so that's you should always be asking for that point of like, if doing some seller financing, even if it's a portion. So even if you can get them to seller finance like 20% of the sales price, because if you could get a loan for maybe 70%, they seller finance you 20, then you might only have to raise 10 or put down yourself 10% to get into a deal.
Yeah. So what does that actually mean? So like, for everybody listening now, like, what does seller financing mean? Like, break that down, what that actually says. Are we borrowing money based off of the equity that they have in the property? Like, tell us what that actually means, because there's a lot of new people getting in here listening. So go ahead, man.
For
Sorry.
sure. No, so like for our first self-storage deal, we borrowed, I believe it was an $800K purchase price. 800K purchase price. The seller was going to seller finance us $700K. So they were essentially the bank for $700K. So we put essentially $100K down, and we were paying them 2% interest only on $700,000.
2%, like $3,300 a month or something like that.
A monthly, I don't know what it is, but like it's like something like 34,000 a year, something like that.
So they owned it outright, and then they let you borrow the $700K. You put $100,000 down already, so you guys didn't even essentially create another loan. You use the same Use
So
the
they
same
create.
structure
So
during
so we had a mortgage and a note created that secures their interest. So it's essentially they're the bank. So instead of going to Bank of America or whoever to get a
Right.
loan from, they're essentially the bank. They hold a mortgage and note on the property, and we
Mhm.
pay them each month, every single month. And the best thing about that is, they don't have certain requirements. One, we can close faster because there's not certain requirements that are needed. You should still do all the things that you need to do, which is like a phase 1 inspection to make sure there's no environmental issues, an appraisal to make sure you're getting a good price. But on that one, we actually paid more than what we typically would pay for that property. We bought it at a 5 cap, and if we used other bank financing, we probably wouldn't have paid the higher price, but it allowed us to get in the deal cheap. And 6 months later, we turned it into a 12 cap, and it's a killer deal for us. So right now, almost a year, 2 years into it, we'd more than double the value of the property.
That's
Wow.
freaking awesome.
It's always a trade-off. Yeah, there's always a trade-off for it, right? Like you get in really cheap, right? It costs you more. But who cares? You got what you wanted. You're able
Cash
to get to
flowing.
where you need to get it. Yeah. You're able to make it to a better deal by value add. And in the future, you're sitting pretty, right? Who cares if it costs you a little bit more to get started? Dude, that's fucking awesome. So let's transition a little bit here. How did you get into actually doing storage facilities? Because I know that's like from talking, I think it's like your main focus right now, right?
Yeah, that's my main focus right now. We bought 5 last year. We're about to close on another one. We bought one our first year, which is in June 2020. We bought 5 in 2021, and we're about to close on our 7th in April, at the end of April. And then we're have a bunch of marketing in. Hopefully, got some verbal offers in. We have a verbal acceptance on one as well. So we're really trying to get 10 this year. But I got into self-storage through another guy teaching. His name's Scott Myers. So I actually went to his course like in 2017, bought his course, but never like implemented it. And then a buddy of mine was like wanting to get into commercial real estate. I gave him the self-storage book. He gave it back to me. We both read it. And then it just happened to be that Scott Myers was back in town in Orlando in like February 2020. And so we both went to that class and signed up for his coaching and mentoring. And then from then on, we just put everything into action, and we started marketing right away, got a deal right away. We got a accepted offer in the end of 2020, but it didn't close until 2021.
So I've always wanted to get into self-storage. I just never knew how to do it or even bothered to try to get into it. I like that you said. I know who Scott is. I've heard of him before. I don't know like what he offers. So how does it look now every time you go out and find it? Like can we talk about that a little bit? Like how's your not only your deal flow, but how does it look when you're actually going out to try to find these self-storages? Are you guys still cold calling for these, or is it like just through networks? Or
So we're just started cold calling this year from it. Everything's been through direct mail, letters, hand addressed letters. It's a professional letter. We change the letter every time. The first year it was like the same letter pretty much. It had a couple of different verbiage here and there. But now after starting to own facilities, now we update it every time. So we update the letter. Before in the beginning too, we were sending like every other month. Now we send it every month, and we update the letter like, "Hey, we just closed on our 5th storage deal. We're really trying to buy more this year. We have this amount of capital set aside. Let us know if you're ready." And then just kind of like update the letter along the way. Hey, we're like after we close this one in April, we'll send out a new letter like, "Hey, we just closed on our 7th deal. Really looking to grow." It's almost like a newsletter, like kind of updating them so they kind of know like we're making moves. It's not like the same old generic letter they're getting. It's almost kind of like a newsletter that they're getting from us of updates of our brand and our company growing, and we're real buyers.
You're mailing that? Sorry, Rafa. Are you mailing that, or are you?
Direct mail.
So it's basically like a blog, but like a paper blog. You're like telling them
Yeah.
what you have going on, the stuff happening.
Yeah. So
Okay,
one of
cool.
at the event we were at, he was also telling me, he was like, "Hey, you should collect these emails from these sellers too, and also email it to them as well, so that way, like, they're getting touched a couple different times, different ways."
Yeah.
how many times do you have to touch them before you get a response? Like, is it do you guys have like a certain number of touches?
Not for us, but they say like direct mail typically says like 6 to 8 times, I think, is
Yeah.
like the amount of touches you want to have. But like I got a verbal acceptance like 2 weeks ago from a seller who I've been talking to from like our first mail campaign. So from like almost 2 years ago, he finally is like calling ready, because it's all about the follow-up. So I was constantly following up with him every single month, like on phone calls. I gave him a couple months, he wasn't ready, but I was always following up, and it takes that to get them to eventually call you, and building the relationships and the rapport with them to be able to be like, he called me when he was ready to sell.
Yeah, it becomes one of those things where you build that rapport, so you're the person they go to whenever that situation comes up, right? Like it's kind of like raising private money, right? You put that thought in their head, hey, I got something coming up in case it ever happens, right? When a person comes up with the cash or something, hey, I got the money to invest, you ready to go type of situation. Let me ask you a question. How does it look to underwrite a deal for self-storage? Is it any different than multifamily, or is it like anything special to it? How's that look?
It's based a lot on like pro formas on like what do you anticipate the rent going to be. So we have programs that we use like Radius Plus and Store Track to kind of get the rents in the area. We also have been having like our interns like call Google the radius. So for self storage, a little different. Like your market is essentially like 3 to 5 mile radius, because no one's really going to drive farther than that to get to your facility. So like that's your market. So the good thing about self-storage is like there's tons of markets everywhere, and if you find an area that has a lack of supply, that's a good market, as long as like there's population growth and people there. So with that, we just do like a study of the area. So getting the idea of what the comps are, what the rents are for the area, and then we just kind of update it into a spreadsheet. And we were actually going over it with a financial analyst of ours this morning, kind of like fine tuning our financial model, so that way we can, once we increase our marketing, that like our team can easily be trained on inputting everything in there. So essentially, we get the financials from the seller, same way you would with an apartment building. Like, hey, what's your rent roll? What's your P&Ls? Your profit and loss statements, which includes the income and expenses, so that way you can know the NOI, and then you're basing the offer essentially on the NOI and the cap rate you think the market's worth in the area. So we do that same thing, which is seeing what the projections are for the rent we can do, what other add value opportunity is there, do they have a manager that's being overpaid, and where for us, we automate everything. So we automate a lot of the processes, so there doesn't have to be a full-time person there, 8 hours, 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And so that is there room for expansion? Can we add another 10,000 square feet to the property? And just finding ways you can cut expenses and increase income, essentially.
In my market, I always think about like these major like self-storage companies, because that's all we see
Budget,
here.
yeah.
Like I see like the my self-storage, the
Avis.
I don't know. There's a bunch of those major
Smart, Life Storage.
Yeah. So how do you compete against that? Like how do you know what markets are good without having to go against these gigantic, companies?
Yeah. So again, we pull a list and we scrape all those guys off the list, because they're not essentially going to sell. So you're looking for the mom and pop owners who are not officially running their business, and making offers to them. And then you're just analyzing the market is like, who else is in this area. And it's good to have a barometer of like, hey, there's a Life Storage there charging $125 for a 10 by 10, and mom and pop are charging $60, and they love that they're 100% full.
Yeah.
It's easy for them, but in reality, they should be pushing rents and getting higher. Yes, you're going to be like maybe the budget conscious buyer. You're not going to really compete with the Life Storage people, but you still have a customer base who wants the cheaper product that you offer compared to a Life Storage. They don't need an elevator they can ride up to and it be climate control. They're just storing like old furniture, and they just want a place for their stuff to be safe, where it's not going to be broken into and it's secure.
You ever have like some of those those auctions where people go in and buy stuff, and you ever have some of those where like there's some really cool shit in there? Like the Storage Wars stuff?
Yeah. It's all based online now. So like the managers take pictures and they post it online, and you can bid online. I've actually never even seen one of our auctions. I've seen some cool stuff in them, like a big high school billboard, like football billboard
cool.
was in one. And like I think we have a plane in one of them right now, but they're paying.
Oh, you find some like super rare throwback first edition Pokemon cards that are worth like 70 G's nowadays.
Yeah, dude. I love watching those storage wars, or like, cause it's crazy how like people, there's so much value in things that are, like older or antique, or people put stuff away they don't recommend, they don't let it recognize. So I have a question for you. This is this is still on topic. How you've mentioned coaching probably like 5 times already. Like, how important is coaching to you, and how has it helped you get from point A to point B to the level of success you're at now?
It's huge. It's like number one thing. It's all coaching, man. Like you have to have a coach. Like getting a personal trainer and you're in working out is huge. Like everybody, all the greatest athletes have coaches. Like people at the top have coaches. So you always got to make yourself better and fine tune your what you're doing. See it from a different perspective. Get the perspective of somebody who's been there, before you, so that way you can not make the same mistakes. It allows you to level jump quicker. Being able to pay. To be in the right rooms, to have the right connections. Um, I always tell people, like, I always pay to like skip the line. If at Disney I gotta buy a fast pass, I'm gonna pay to skip the line. So like paying coaching, paying for mentors, paying for masterminds is literally like skipping the line, getting the info you need quicker, more direct, rather than being in a room of 500 and everybody's hearing, the same thing. If you're right there with the guy who's speaking, you pay for his access, you're gonna get more attention, you're gonna get more one-on-one, you're gonna get more of what your questions answered, rather than, you know, the frequently asked questions. So I always pay to be in the head of those rooms. I'm like in 3 masterminds. I'm always buying people's material. If you guys put out, a blog or content, or some material, I would buy it because I want more info. And I was like, I'm impressed, and I know Rafa's crushing it with Airbnb, with short-term rentals. And so like I was like picking his ear all weekend. He might be asking me stuff, but I was like in his ear all weekend, like, hey, like, how would I do this? Can you help me underwrite this deal I'm looking at? Like, because he has more knowledge than me in short-term rentals. So it's all coaching and who you put yourself around.
Yeah, I agree, because there's 2 types of people, like, that either I want to learn it from the beginning. I'm going to deal with all the hurdles and everything. I'm going to lose money, because a lot of times people that don't go through coaching lose a lot of money. And then there's the other side of people who are like, yeah, I'm going to pay 4, 5, 7, 10, whatever grand it is to go into coaching, because it's not cheap. And people that have real knowledge are going to charge more. It's just how it works. So then it's like somebody getting into something. It's always that weird spot. But some of the most successful people I've met have, just like yourself, have put themselves through coaching. Rafa's in masterminds now, like pays, I don't even know how much money to be in some of these masterminds. Like, that's a goal for me, to make sure that I'm in that. And I like watching people that are successful now that are still doing that, like that are still putting themselves around, other people that are leveled up in where they want to go, or they're putting their time or energy into that. So that's cool, man, that you're actually like still doing that, putting that energy in, and still surrounding yourself. I mean, you said it earlier, like just being around people, and by going to a mastermind, like in person, you get so much value out of people just by connecting with them. It could be one way I help you, you help me in another way, and then 2 months later, you guys are doing a deal together. And it could just be that one interaction over a weekend.
You know what the thing is too? Like Alex, you said, I love the analogy that you said, like, how do I get to the front of the line the fastest? Right. And most of the time, unless you cut and rip somebody off, you got to pay to get there. Right. And I always tell everybody, when somebody asks, you think this coaching is worth it? Well, is it going to help you get from point A to point B? Like that? Is that coaching going to be the one that's going to get you from here to here to here, right? Because there's so many out there, right? Some of them are like, some of them are like worth it. Some of them are like, can I afford it, right? And it depends on where you are in that point in time in life. Like now I am paying for some high-end masterminds, but in the beginning I couldn't afford it. But I now know the value behind it. And there's not always an actual value. What's the word? Like an actual exchange. It's hard to measure the value behind it. For example, we went to this lodge thing, right? I can't put the value behind that until I know, I know the value behind it, because just meeting you, right? Like meeting the people around me, being just the fact that I was able to change my mindset from here to like here, right? Just flip that switch.
Yeah.
Is that value behind it? In my eyes, it is. Was it worth what I spent? Hell yeah, absolutely,
10X.
right? Absolutely. And so some people, it's hard for people when they're starting off to go, well, I don't know if there's really value behind it. Like I'm expecting to see something actual physically there. And you're like, no, dude, you gotta understand. Just having that connection with someone who can help you get that next deal that's going to make you thousands, millions, hundreds of dollars could just be that one thing. And you don't know, right?
The first most expensive mastermind I bought was $30K, and in the room the next day, I had a deal in Chicago, and I had no buyers in Chicago. She sold the deal, and I made $18K the next day. I've had direct, immediate impacts like that, and in that mastermind, we've like 100x our stuff because like a bunch of clients there use our cold call services, but I feel like in this real estate business, you even have a bigger advantage because even if something costs 10, 20, 30 grand, that's like one deal. It could be one wholesale deal, one rehab, one Airbnb, and it pays for itself literally in one deal. So if a mastermind of coaching can get you one deal, you almost pretty much break even, if not get all, majority of your money back.
Oh,
And so
100 tenfold, yeah.
we have a good advantage in this industry that like the profits are great for what we do.
Yeah. You brought something up, Alex, too, is you took a class and then you forgot about it for a year or two. And that's like, I coach a class and it's hard for me to like watch students that aren't putting the work in. Like as a coach or as a mentor, I consider myself more of a mentor. But eventually I love that you circled back around and you actually, when you had time to do it, you did it. Because sometimes we get like, oh, I want to learn how to do this. So you'll take a course right away and then it sits on your shelf for, 2 years. And all of a sudden one day you're just like, you said your buddy talked to you about something. Yep. And that's how you got back into it again, was your buddy being like, hey man, I want to get into self-storage. And then there was a book sitting there on the dresser. So, but yeah, man, it's about putting in the work because nothing comes easy. And I think that a lot of times people forget that.
Yeah, I talk a lot about like taking action. And the reason back then I didn't do it was like I was trying to build. I'm like, I got to really get like my wholesale business automated because it was making money and we was doing good. But I was like, I need to replace myself in this before I can like look and focus on other stuff. And maybe if I actually went back in time, I would have probably went bigger, faster. I like to just say, hey, forget wholesaling. Let's just focus on self-storage apartments like earlier. But where I was at, I was like, let me build this. Let me replace myself, and then I'll 100% focus on commercial real estate and doing self-storage and growing those assets. So that's where we're at now, and it works. But the thing with a lot of people is not taking action. Like learning is cool, but it's really a waste of time if you're not implementing it and taking massive action. And being some other big masterminds, like the number one key thing I pull away from like most of these big groups is like speed of implementation, like implementing what you learn immediately.
I talk about that all the time where I go, you have 24 hours to literally do what you've learned. Because after 24 hours, the next day you go to bed, that's gone. That's gone. You're now focused on something else. And if you're trying to go back to, you're like, shit, what was it that I was trying to do? And you're like, and it's gone. Every time I tell somebody, look, dude, they go, well, what do you think I should do next? Whatever you just learned right now, go home and actually make a plan and do the work to it. Add it as an implementation to the next step. Because seriously, 24 hours later, it's gone. You might tell me right now, Alex, how to actually make a cold call and explain it step by step by step. And then I go, hell yeah. And then I go and I make coffee and then I sit down and then I get a phone call and then I take my dog out to piss. And then, my girlfriend shows up and we go to dinner and then the day is gone. And then tomorrow I'm like, oh, well, I got all these things to do today. And then it's gone. And will I ever do it? Absolutely not. But had I said, okay, I got this, I'm going down, I make a phone call downstairs. What's the next step? It's the next step. The easiest next step is just going to get you to the next spot. Always.
Yeah. So Alex, how do you implement stuff then? We're talking about everything that you've done with the wholesaling. We talked about you with the storage units. So how do you actually, like, if you went to a master class, you guys went to an event, like what did you learn there at that event and how are you applying that now?
Yeah, so one of the things that I took away was like I was trying to build up, and like it's like right in front of my face. Like I built a wholesale team, an acquisition team, and I was kind of like, I need to really replicate that for my self-storage business. And so they were telling me is like, hey, like you already have that team, just like funnel them the leads, just train them up. Like you don't have to have like hire more people specifically for self-storage. And so I'm literally talking to my business partner this morning, was like, hey, let's get 2 cold callers, focus on self-storage, cold call these leads. We're going to funnel everything to our main acquisition team. I met with the underwriter today, going through our financial modeling, editing that. So that way I can train my team here how to use it. They already know, because we've had some leads come through, like they know to collect the P&Ls, the rent rolls, how to talk to sellers. They're already good at talking to sellers. So instead of training new people, just have my people who are already doing it, just take in this other asset class and just pivot what we're kind of doing with the houses and they know it's a different seller, and I'll continue to train them on like, you're going to talk to this seller differently than the typical homeowner because it's a little higher level person, and you're not going to like lock them down, and you're not going to close a deal the same day. It's more building relationships and collecting information and coming back with an offer. So literally from that week, like I'm implementing new cold callers specifically for self-storage, got a new financial model, new training. And so we're literally going to like next week have cold callers start calling and get the leads coming in for self-storage so that we can make more offers and make sure we're getting more offers in, getting these deals contracted so that way we can reach our goal this year of buying 10 self-storage facilities.
So are I don't know if we touched on this yet. You have, is it Colombia or so? Is that where your team's based out of? So you don't have
our call center is based out of Colombia, and we have in-house, we have like 6 acquisition reps, disposition guy, 2 transaction coordinators, 2 assistants, and then my brother who runs pretty much the whole thing.
So you guys got the whole shindig going. So, okay. So hang on. Let me try to understand the sales process right here. So then you got the lead generators, which is the marketing. That's then getting connected to the folks in Colombia. Now, do you have like 2 rockstar or 3 rockstar salespeople that are talking specifically to the owners of the property, or are you having your Colombia team do that?
So the Colombia team gets the lead, creates a cold lead essentially, and brings them warmer. Takes them to be warm or hot. They really highly qualify them, and then they send that motivated lead to our acquisition reps here in Orlando. Once they come over here, they go into our CRM, and in our CRM is only hot and warm leads. And somebody who rose their hand and said, I want to hear an offer, I want to hear more, or they filled out a PPC ad and they're like, I'm ready to sell my house. So only those people are in our CRM, and those people are talking to my in-house acquisition agents who are, finding out their why, their motivation, the condition of their property, building rapport with them, and trying to get a price from them and the timeline of when they want to sell, and making offers to them.
So you're not taking those phone calls anymore. You've essentially passed off those calls to those people now. Like they're handling everything you're not doing any of that stuff anymore. You're only doing the stuff that you're like uniquely qualified to do. Everything else is like hands off.
So on the houses, they're taking care of everything. The self-storage leads, the direct mail leads, that goes directly to my cell phone because that's the most important lead for me, and I want to make sure I'm answering those all the time. My business partner for self-storage is also gets those calls. That both rings our phone, so whoever answers it first, because I would be like, yo, guys, I gotta be on hold for a second. Like I would put you on hold right now if a self-storage lead came through, because I'm gonna answer that call.
I'd be okay with this.
And then, but on the wholesale side, really, I only kind of mess with those houses and those properties if it's a seller financing subject to house, and it'll just come to me and I'll just underwrite it really quick, which I can do pretty much in 5 minutes because my team knows what to bring me. I'll underwrite it, make a couple offers, give it back to them, and they close the seller and they move forward from there.
So essentially, you have pretty much everything automated. Do you even bother to look at the properties now when you're doing the wholesale deals, or is it just like you guys a specific number?
Yeah, we definitely don't look at any properties.
Oh, it's volume.
Yeah, it's all volume. It's all virtual. We have processes in place of like sending every property that we personally buy, we get a full inspection on. Every other property that we wholesale, we just send a photographer out there or handyman. They take the photos. They give us some items of what they're looking for, what they think might be needed, and we leverage the seller and tell us they tell us what is needed on the property and the condition of the property, and we just push that out to the buyers and say, hey, this is what we're told, and these are the pictures we have, and it's on them to do their due diligence.
And on you said this is nationwide, like in every market.
So we target like essentially every market because it's a nationwide PPC campaign for the wholesaling houses. So that's a nationwide PPC campaign. So literally we'll get deals from Washington State to the middle of Kansas to we did one in Arkansas, like Jacksonville, Arkansas. Today we got a deal that was a foreclosure lead, and then we have from Florida, Miami, New York City, all over
California, Central California.
You know what, Alex? We're going to talk offline, bro, if you get anything down here in my market. But
for sure.
I was going to ask a question on this real quick. So, okay, so say I'm a dude listening to this right now, and I'm like, Alex, this guy's the fucking shit. I want to my
which
team.
You are, Alex, dude. Impressive.
Yeah, it is really
Thank
impressive
you.
that you've been able to scale so quickly, and grow. Actually, it hasn't been quickly. You've been doing this for a long time. Like it takes time to build all these things
I
up.
tell people I should have been here 3 years earlier, but I fucked around for 3 years.
And well, you're here now. That's all that matters.
Yeah, right?
Okay, so like, say I'm a dude just listening to this, and I'm like, oh, cool, I have 200K. Like, would I be able to call you or find you on the gram and say like, hey, Alex, dude, I have 200K to purchase something right now. Can you find me something in these markets at this zip codes? Would you allocate a team directly for me?
Oh, yeah, for sure. So like our disposition, so like you can hit me on DM on, that's my IG right there. But we would send you, essentially you go to we have another website called vaultventures.net, and it'll literally say if you're an active investor or a passive investor. If you're a passive investor, you're just looking to invest in deals. Active investor, you're like, I want to buy houses to flip or be a landlord. I want properties for myself. Then you would fill out the form, and it says like, hey, I'm buying in Central Valley, California, and then this is my parameters, this is my buy box. It goes to our disposition guy. He's going to follow up with you and say, hey, what exactly are you looking for? What's your buy box? How many deals are you going to buy this year? How are you funding them? What's an ideal property for you? And then we essentially will turn our market. And then if we verify you're a real buyer, if you're like, oh, I'm just trying to get started, and we're not going to like pivot marketing dollars to you. But if you're like, hey, I buy everything in this zip code, bring me more houses in the zip code, then I'll be like, Columbia, hey, pull this list on these parameters, because this guy is literally, he owns these 20 properties and he's going to buy everything in the zip code. So let's smash this zip code. And then we're just going to market to that zip code, because we get that deal. We're going to go to Rafa and say, he's going to buy this deal because he said these are his parameters and this is what he's looking for.
Got you. So now, am I paying for, because you're talking about marketing dollars and all that stuff there too. So am I paying, if would I come in and be like, okay, Alex, here's 10 grand. And then once you find me a deal, obviously we got to pay the wholesaler amount. Is there a certain amount that comes along with that, or is it different from every market?
It's we don't like we're going to pay for the cost, because one, I'm going to verify that you're a real buyer, that you own these properties, and I'm going to have a conversation with you. I'm going to have a conversation with you being like, hey, Jesse, when I bring you this property and you move forward and I get you what you're looking for, I need a firm yes or no right away on this property, and kind of like vet you and be like, if it does everything you say and at this price, I can get it for you, because you say you buy everything in this zip code that's a 3.2 bigger than 1,200 square feet, you'll pay a minimum of 400K for it, and I bring you that property, you tell me no, then I might never talk to you again. But you told me it's a deal, and I'm going to negotiate it even without you to know it's a deal based on comps and everything else.
Right.
But so you don't have to pay for me for marketing. But on that deal, I might get it for 300K and you buying it for 400K. So I might make 100K on it. So I'm not worried about your marketing, you paying me for marketing. Like, we're going to say, hey, we're going to invest our marketing dollars to find new properties, because that's what we're good at. We're essentially good at shopping for buyers. So we work with a lot of hedge funds in that way also. Got you.
I like how you have everything so automated.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all people and processes. And like, so even like when we went to that event and we scaled up our marketing, it was literally just me and my brother, and we did like 88 deals on pen and paper. It was when I brought my business partner who runs the call center, when I brought him in, where he used to run a big company, where we would where he kind of was like, like, you have to do these things this way, and like build a team and things like that. So it is all people. Like, the reason I'm able to do like these, like the short-term rentals, like I don't run the short-term rentals. Like, I have a partner who, the ones we own together, he manages and runs all the Airbnbs. The ones I own without him, I hire him as my manager, and he runs them. So I have a good person who takes care of that. I have my brother who takes care of the wholesale team. I have my partner who takes care of the call center. I'm focusing on storage, and so it allows having good people and a good team, and the processes and systems set up, we're able to scale up in, all these businesses.
Well, dude, just the fact too that you can get these properties at such a good deal that you're able to scale up so fast because of that as well, right? So, yeah, dude, I mean, we're at the top of the hour, and we always ask 2 questions to all of our guests who come on and talk. And I got to ask you, being that the show's called The Big Break Show, right? We always ask, what was your big break in life? Like, not just in life, but like it could be in business, it could be personally, like that got you that one thing that you can say, hey, because of this, I went from here to here. It was like my break, like my big break, where I went from one wholesale deal to 100 wholesale deals, where I went from one storage to 5,000 storages, where I went from one short-term rental or maybe just I went from a regular dude graduating school to becoming this amazing, badass investor. Like, what's your big break in life?
So my big break was finding an amazing private lender of mine. So I actually went to an event to learn how to raise private money, and like wrote down goals and like started like saying affirmations and literally spoke her into existence. And I sold a bunch of her rental houses over the past 2 years. I sold another one, and then she called me up and says, "Hey, do you ever borrow money to fund deals?" And she funded one deal of mine, then another, then another. She gave me another person to fund deals. I gave one deal to her. She's like, "Oh, bring me everything first." And so like I built a relationship with her where literally I have other investors, but like she's my go-to person, and she has been a pivotal part of my life to help me grow. So having a good private money lender is having access to private money. It doesn't obviously have to be one person. We have like a big list of people who are ready to invest in our deals. But if a good private money lender can like just drastically increase your business. I know you rose some money through that token, but having other access to capital, like access to capital that is cheap and you can partner with, is huge. And that's how we be able to grow our business. So we've deployed over like 20 million, I believe, of like private money capital. And right now we have about 12, $13 million of private money partnered in our deals.
Dude, that's awesome. You know what that does too? That also gives you proof of concept from other people that like are working with you, that you can go back to them and say, "Here's Miss Smith that's worked with us. We've already operated $12 million. This is what she's doing. Here's another pro forma investor B that she brought in. We're doing $10 million with this person." So, because investors like to know that there's people in that circle that are actually doing things, and that's where that proof of concept is really such a big thing. Dude, that's freaking amazing. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been good.
And that was another mastermind. You went to another event, and there it is. Somebody that changed your life in a significant way.
Yeah, man, that's really good. So let's ask you, what's something that somebody listening to this can really, next actionable step right now, that from this episode, that they can take, that you're giving them, like a tip? If they're listening to it and they go, "Well, Alex, this was awesome, but like, how can I really get going here?"
Yeah, so I would say whatever part of like real estate you are interested in, whether it is short-term rentals, self-storage, wholesaling, whatever it may be, find that person that you connect with, whether it's a coach. Make sure like they're doing the business. So I know there are a lot of coaches who like they got one short-term rental and then now they're coaching on short-term rental.
Yeah,
But like,
you know a lot of those guys.
yeah, so like find somebody who's actually doing the business and you connect with, and pay for their coaching or pay for their time, or pay for them being a mentor to you. And then take massive action, speed of implementation, take massive action on what they teach you. So find a mentor and take action.
Love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I just announced I'm going to be doing a little baby course for short-term rentals. So thanks for saying that.
I love it.
Hey, Alex, before we get off here, because I know we try to keep it at about an hour, let's talk about your Instagram, man. I saw your videos and they're awesome. They're hella funny. They're hella informative. How did that come about?
Man, so there was a point in time where, being in other masterminds, they always talk like about growing your social media, and I always like hated it. Like I didn't like really being in front of the camera and things like that. So I never like really did it. And then my main investor, like I had a lot of deals utilizing her capital, and I was like, man, like I have so much deal flow, like I'm about to tap her out, and I'm gonna have, I need to raise more money. So I wanted to put myself out there more and show people what we're doing, and really that was the main purpose. And so I hired a company first, and they helped me grow it exponentially. And then it was expensive. So what I did was actually I hired a full-time guy. His name's LA, and he literally kills it. Like, so I hired him full-time. So he's in office. He takes videos every day. He's going to leave with me tonight to Pompano Beach, to Fort Lauderdale, to look at our Airbnbs and other Airbnb we're looking at to purchase. take just more content, and he literally comes around with me and takes content, videos and content to show people what we're doing, get people interested. And from that, I have purchased properties. I have had people interested in wanting to invest with us, and just some of them got some big hits because of the craziness that has happened in some of the self-storage facilities and things like that. And we try to make it funny and fun and informative, obviously. So it's been good, and I think him has been a pivotal part because he edits it so well, and he kind of like directs me. So it's a good
cool,
combo.
Man. Yeah, it's good content, man. I appreciate it. And that's alex.theinvestor.quezada.
Quezada, yep.
Yeah, so that's his Instagram. Aside from your badass IG, where else can people get a hold of you if they want to maybe make a deal or talk to you or get some help or whatever?
Yeah, so my website, whether you're an active investor or passive investor, you can go to www.vault, like a bank vault, VAULT, ventures.net, and has some information on us. And if you're wanting to get on a buyer's list for our wholesale deals, or you want to see kind of the storage deals or other opportunities coming our way, you guys can get on the list there. Instagram, TikTok are all both Alex the Investor Quezada.
That's freaking amazing, man. Amazing. Yeah, this guy's doing it all. You guys, you heard it all here, folks. Alex is doing short-term rentals, wholesaling, storages. He goes to Masterminds. This guy's making millions of dollars all over the place. He's got behind him is an American Express card with his social security number on it. This guy's doing it all, you guys. So please jump in, follow him on the gram, follow him on TikTok, go to his website. I'm actually going to jump on and head in your website, and I might have some deals that I'm looking for. But everybody listening to the show, please like and share this. Alex has dropped some really important information. Frankly, this guy should be known. You should be known, and you are. You have a pretty good following, but you have a lot of good concepts. You've obviously been able to duplicate what you do. You've created a fucking business out of what you're doing, and
not just one, multiple businesses too.
Exactly. So yeah, follow this guy, share this content, give this a like and subscribe. But Alex, man, we appreciate you for being here. Rafa, you guys, luckily you met up at a meetup. This is where this all came from.
Dude, I was happy. Like, you're the number one person I talked to about my wife about. So like, I love it.
Appreciate that.
Glad to meet you guys.
Yeah, Alex, thanks for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
thanks for having me, boss. See you guys.